The second third place winner is Kenneth Ronkowitz. And Kenneth Ronkowitz teaches at New Jersey Institute of Technology and Montclair State University. He's been the editor since 1998 of poetsonline.org, a monthly online poetry magazine and website for poetic inspiration. Check it out, it's really interesting. He is the recipient of 2 Dodge Foundation writing grants, and his poetry has been nominated twice for the Pushcart Prize. His published poetry appears in Tiferet, English Journal, Paterson Literary Review, Beloit Poetry Journal, Roadmount, Prague, and anthologies including The Paradell and The Crafty Poet. Let's welcome Ken Ronkowitz.
And I will add my thanks to Maria and also Susan and Smita, the people who keep the Poetry Center and Paterson Literary Review and all the cultural things that they do for Paterson, Passaic County, and the ripples that go out into the larger world. I'm going to bookmark the poems I read with the first one that ever was in Paterson Literary Review, and then end with the one that's in the current. 57 Chevy. In our 57 Chevy, coming home late at night, I would curl up on the floor, pillowing my head on that hill that was the drive shaft to the rear wheels. Their turning hummed in my ears, heat from the exhaust system warmed the floor beneath me. Not even a thought of seatbelts. The great wall of my parents on the front bench seat protected me. My father had just had that car repainted a robin's egg blue and reupholstered to celebrate its 8th birthday. It was the year he got sick. The car would sit for 6 years in our garage as he moved in and out of beds at home and away. He would not let us sell the car, determined he would one day drive again. Some days he could start the engine. Later he would ask me to start it, and I was a glad 14-year-old who drove to the sidewalk and back up the driveway into the garage. When he was gone, I sold the car. My mother could not understand my eagerness to do so. My willingness to take so little money to have it taken away. She could not understand how it could have meant so little to me. A little bit lighter. This is a poem for all those people who write poetry and give workshops or go to workshops. And it's a poem inside a poem. It has a little poem inside of it that was written at a workshop. It's called Prompt Response. Poets are sexy. That's why we love to be together. We say it is to write and to practice our craft and be in the presence of others who do, but we are poets, and we love the tease and the touch and the lick of the words. The poet with books to sell tells us to write about an object in the room. I choose the calla lilies in a vase next to the woman I have been watching. Long-stemmed, they rise to a top, fluted like lips, that a tongue might probe like a bee buzzing for it. Embraced by slender green fingers that first held them, now tilted back to see the bloom. Fluid and flesh, it opens and spills. The weight of it makes your head drop. Your own lips dry and wanting to find something to rest upon. Does anyone want to share what they wrote? We all want to share, but some are coy, patient, or afraid. I read first. I want there to be time for discussion. I read slowly, without looking at her. I look at the lilies, the window, our teacher, until I need something to rest upon. I look right at her, and she is looking at me. Poets are sexy. That's why we love to be together. Billy Collins has a poem called Undressing Emily Dickinson. So this is my poem that goes next to that one in the book. Sex with Amelia Earhart. Who I really love. I love Amelia Earhart. Afterwards, you said, the sky is like flesh, and you love getting lost in it. Wrapped in your Electra cockpit, dressed in your leather and silk, heat rolling over you from an engine, holding you in the clouds, you would forget and lift your goggles, and the heat would feel cool, and your head would fall back, and your hands would squeeze tightly, and you knew you were in control, but did not want to be. Then the world would dive, your head would jerk forward, and you had to level off, make up for the lost moments, use the artificial horizon to return to the world. Reflected in the glass of your goggles lying on the floor, on top of your silk and leather, I could see you, naked, eyes closed, your body smooth, white, wingless. And this is the poem that's in the current issue. That summer between. 4th grade was the year we learned cursive writing. Miss Goldfarb's handwriting on the blackboard was as beautiful as she was, with long, smooth curves and dresses and skirts that moved like the uppercase L and stood up, head held high like the Q of a queen. She did not like my handwriting. Too small and cramped straight up and down without the grace of curves. I could not stay within the paper's 2 bold blue lines or observe the lighter blue midline of the Palmer method. But I still loved her. I loved that she let me read more aloud than the other children in the class. I loved her for allowing me to bring in my science and nature books and to show my fossils and minerals, a snakeskin, lost feathers I had found. That was the year they found the tumor in my father's brain. I did not know it then, but all the teachers knew what had happened. The surgery that took part of his right side of his brain, and with it took the use of his left arm and leg, and then slowly took him. My assignment for 5th grade placed me in Mrs. Alterman's class, a new teacher that I did not know and did not want to know. But when we lined up in the schoolyard that day in September, it was Miss Goldfarb that called us all to line up behind her. She had married over the summer. I could not believe she had done this to me. I brought no books, no rocks, no unusual plants to school that year. I printed my notes and papers when I could in square, uniform block letters. After school, I went straight home. I helped my father shave and use the bathroom and climb upstairs. I went to the supermarket and I shopped for my mother. I looked after my sister. I put my fossils and crystals in a box down the basement. I let my feathers go from my bedroom window one day and watched them fall until they were lost once again. Thank you.
What I'm going to do is change the order a little bit. We're going to break in a minute, but I want to ask Gail Fishman Gerwin, to come up and read her poem because she's just broken her hip and this is her first day out. So, you know, I don't want her to have to stay here all that long. So I'm just going to say something about her. Paterson-born Gail Fishman Gerwin owns InEdit, a Morristown, New Jersey freelance writing editing firm. Her memoir, Sugar and Sand, was a 2010 Paterson Poetry Prize finalist. Dear Kinfolk earned 2013 Paterson Award for Literary Excellence. Her writing and plays appear in print, online, and in performance. Gail is Associate Poetry Editor of Tiferet and facilitates poetry writing workshops. Let's welcome Gail Fishman. I just have to find her. Come and help her up here. I can find her. She's out of order, so I have to find her. Okay, I can't find her.
It's always good to be back in my hometown. I'm going to read, and thank you, Maria, and the committee. I'm going to read a poem that will most likely be the title of my next collection and the last poem in the book. It's called Crowns. On the top shelf in my daughter's closet, in a room where she hasn't lived for over a quarter century, where college texts still line the walls, where Benetton sweaters we bought in Rome languish in their pilled state, on that shelf I store 2 boxes, a pink square with shredded brown string, and a navy oval, its sheen faded. Not from the girl who shopped in that closet daily before she left for high school in the ghostly face powder and jet eyeliner that appalled her father. The boxes, traces of my mother, hats from Jean's Millinery, 17 Church Street, Paterson, known for exclusive lace chapeau, the lid says. More hats from Maxine's in Passaic, 701 Main Avenue, and inside, treasures worth more per ounce than the price of gold. Hats with demure veils that hid eyes worn by dawn drudgery, dispatching her husband's moving vans, by 2 daughters who needed attention, by hot meals served at noon on oilcloth in the kitchen, worn by knowledge of those taken by the war, led without protest to uncharted graves. Ah, the hats. Brown straw, black velvet with bows to outline the head's crown, blue file with white felt posies, hats modeled to perfection, all bought for the holidays, new every year to match a navy crepe suit, to blend with a striped gabardine sheath, to top a wool coat when October wind chilled the walk to synagogue. Hats worn once each, never the next year. Everyone saw this already, she said. Throw out those sweaters, says my daughter. Clean up the house. And why those hats? The sweaters? Sometimes I hold them close to remind me of my girl with the ghostly white powder, echoes of arguments between 2 sisters who rarely shared. Maybe I'll toss them. Maybe. The hats, they stay. When no one watches, I don them, one at a time, to watch my mother pray. Thank you very much.
I'm now going to have the honorable mention people read their poems, and I will ask you to read only the poem, because otherwise we'll be here until 11 o'clock at night, to read only the poem that was chosen it gives people a chance to see the kinds of poems that were chosen for the award. So if you would just read the poem that was chosen by the judges for the award, that would be really great. And our first honorable mention reader is Suzanne Ray. Oh, poor Suzanne, I never could say her name. Earned her MFA in poetry from Solstice Creative Writing Program and completed a master's in creativity studies at Union Institute. Suzanne teaches in the English department at Berkeley College and in the developmental studies department at Passaic County Community College. She has studied criticism and has just completed her book on contemplative creativity. Let's welcome Suzanne. I love your kid, but I still can't say her name. Okay, here you go.
I don't think anyone can. It's just Ching. If you were wondering. It doesn't look like that. It's a patch. It should give you a clue in the way it's spelled. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. It's spelled correctly too. Okay. This poem is called Chile Verde. My people never get cancer. It's the chile, my mom would say. Tears running down her flushed face. Burns away the impurities. Why do you eat it? I would ask my Uncle Tony, bright red, sweating from the heat. I watched more than once Grandpa rolling jalapenos in his hands to get them mad, he'd say. We all knew this meant to make them hotter. Then he'd take a bite, savoring the fire raging in his mouth. I led my aunt to the bathroom one Thanksgiving after she got chile splashed in her eye. From Lizzie throwing a roll to her across the table. It was the biggest crystal vat of chile verde I've ever seen. Aunt Margaret has never had to wear glasses. It's the chile, Mom would say, burned away the impurities.
Our next winner is Gil Fangiani, who's from Long Island City, New York, and Gil is an independent scholar, translator, short story writer, and poet. His latest poetry collections are Stone Walls from Bordighera Press, 2014, and Logos Guernica editions pending in 2015. Johnny Cope curates the Italian American Writers Association monthly readings in Manhattan. Let's welcome Gil Fangiani.
This is written in the voice of a young girl. St. Mary's Cemetery, 1954. I thought it was normal to go to the graveyard every Sunday with a shopping cart packed with bread, salami, ricotta, roasted peppers, apricots, sauteed escarole, pears, figs, biscotti, mums, carnations, and my favorite, dolls and toys. While I played ate, Nonna bantered with Zio Pasquale, who never stopped ribbing her about using onions instead of tomato paste when making sauce. She argued with Zio Giuseppe about who was the rightful owner of a stone hut and a cactus patch in Sicily, while I made friends with some girls who lived behind the fence by the family tombstones. Nonna pleaded with cousin Carmela to forgive her son for leaving the seminary in Scarsdale to marry into a tribe of Calabrese ice vendors and ditch diggers. And she begged Nonno Luigi to forget that cousin Giuseppe didn't invite him to his son Angelo's confirmation. After all, wasn't it time to rest in peace? Nonna sipped her strong black coffee, I called it jet fuel, greeted her sisters, Zia Rosa, Zia Maria, talking in her loud Messinese dialect, doling out the spiciest gossip, talking until the sun went down and the groundskeepers kicked us out.
Our next reader is Brian Finelli, and Brian's poetry has been published in the Los Angeles Times, World Literature Today, Blue Collar Review, Portland Review, and elsewhere. He is author of the chapbook Frontman and the full-length book All That Remains. He teaches English at Lackawanna College in Pennsylvania. Brian Finelli.
Thank you so much to Maria for all the work she's done for the poetry community here, and thank all of you for coming here, and big congratulations to all the winners. You're so lucky to have this poetry center here in Paterson. Trying to catch the culprits. When we see a swastika graffitied on the red door to the groundskeeping building of Reese Park, the paint silver and glaring like a knife blade, you storm forward, ready to hunt and catch whomever spray painted the mark a few feet from jungle gyms and swing sets, the concrete area where kids dash through sprinklers in summer. Feet from our backyard, you search for cars parked in the alley, headlights turned low, the hangout where teens spark joints and toss trash into our hedges. I want to grip your arm, hold you back as your fists hang heavy at your sides, and you ask, who did this? I know you want to find and drag the criminal through the streets or yank the teens out of their car before you consider calling the cops, like the time you ran down block after block in our old neighborhood after someone stole our hose. I knew you would knock the thief to the ground, pummel them no matter their age. We never found the bike, and when we don't discover who vandalized the park, I think of the lone Jewish family on Hoyt Street, a few houses down, the way Bear and Rivka hold their children's hand on the walk to the synagogue each Saturday, how they gave us garden vegetables last summer, how their children play in that park with the boy Mikhail across the street. When you ask, what can we do? Should we spray paint over it? I drive to Lowe's and pay for the can to cover up another's crime before kids eye the symbol and ask what it means.
Next is Deborah Garish, and Deborah is the author of The Language of Paisley, 2012, and chapbook The Language of Ring, 2008. She received her EDD from Rutgers University in 2004, taught English for over 30 years in New Jersey schools, and now teaches at Fairleigh Dickinson University. Let's welcome Deborah Garish.
It's such an honor to be here today, and I want to thank Maria and the committee. My poem is called The Liberator. For many days now, the world has been growing emptier. For many days now, my grieving body refuses to move. Food has lost its color. My beloveds are like bees disappearing from the hive. All night long, I turn like a flapjack on a skillet until today I'm awakened. The birds are back. Bird song like a storm outside the window of my bedroom tower. Even the cool alien air has a mint note breath. Can you ever have too much song? Even the thin line of light squeezes past clouds. Can you ever have too much light? And how the Buchenwald prisoners must have heard that same bird song from inside the camp. Day after day, I can't help thinking about the TV documentary, The Liberator of Buchenwald, that April morning, 1945. They must have heard his jeep with its lyrical hum approach. The American reconnaissance officer, no more than 25 years old, accompanied by 2 chaplains in a small military vehicle. I vomited 3 times when I saw the first likeness of a man peer out the small hole fenced in with barbed wire, and so I began cutting the steely cords. The prisoner's haggard face covered with pus-filled sores, head teeming with lice, inflamed, bulging eyes, rotting teeth, half ghost. Then more faces appeared through the opening. The soldier vomited, took several snorts of whiskey from the flask in his back pocket, clipped and ripped and parted all the wires. one after another, like phantoms filing out in grave clothes. The liberator shook stiff hands. Yes, we are Americans. He hugged an old man, raised up a child from the rubble. As I look up at the sky, as I look through the trees, I can't help but think they are extravagant, the songbirds, the bobolinks, thrushes, and sparrows with their cadences of psalms. I will get out of bed now. The birds are back.